Hello and welcome to Spotlight 2023, a ray of hope in a troubled new year.
Spotlight, brought to you by the IOM Arts Council.
This evening, we buzz off to Laxey for a fantastic art exhibition based around the oft-ignored world of insects and invertebrates. Catch up with a local artist who's seeing the new year in with a laugh and a smile, something in rather short supply these days. And if you have an artistic idea you'd like to bring to life but don't have the backing or the wherewithal, stay tuned. We'll hear about the first round of arts funding for 2023. As always, do get in touch with any creative, artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Poetic, visual, theatrical, musical, literary, mime, sculpture, etc., etc., etc. Just email me, spotlight@maxradio.com, or if you prefer, howardkane@maxradio.com. I flitted up to Laxey at the end of last week to have a talk and walk around the Loom Gallery at the Mill as part of our ongoing series exploring the island's gallery spaces, and we'll hear that walk in a week or two. But as it happens, being a gallery, I got totally absorbed in the exhibition which is showing there currently, Insect Mania.
Hi, I'm Julia Ashby-Smythe and I curate the Hodgson Loom Gallery. The exhibition at the moment is the Insect Mania exhibition, which is all about invertebrates, Manx, specifically Manx invertebrates. And it was just an idea in order to get people looking at all those remarkable, spectacular beasties that rootle around in your house and outside and under the bin, and give them the space that they deserve. And so this was an exhibition whereby people could submit their work, anybody, and in any media, and just see what comes up. And we had miniatures and we had macro, and so this is a fabulous display of about 190 pieces in total of that, looking into the invertebrate world.
And were you surprised at the sort of reaction? Because as you say, the invertebrate world, it is fascinating. I've always been fascinated by invertebrates and that side of things. It's not everyone's cup of tea, though, is it? No, and yet they deserve to be looked at because the patterns on moss wings, or there's a photograph of a garden spider, and the patterns and the colours and the iridescence is just stunning. And it is, some of it is macro and minute, and some of it is really in your face. So it's fabulous to be able to display all how that creativity and the inspiration that those beasties have inspired, and the marine as well, marine invertebrates and land and air, all of them. And so did you get a real mix? Because having just had a quick little look around, there's some well-known names on the island's art scene, but I think you were saying some children and perhaps people who are maybe first-timers with it? Yes. Yeah, the great thing about having an exhibition like this is that people don't feel afraid to bring things that they've made. Maybe it's their first piece that they've ever displayed, or a piece that's out of their normal medium, and so they feel secure and happy to be able to display them in amongst so many other artists. I think there's about 60 submissions here from different artists. I say there are children and there are really established artists, and some of them have gone outside their usual style, so you think, oh, didn't realise that was from Colleen, or something completely different, and new faces all the time. It's brilliant to see them. It is brilliant, and we'll have a little quick wander around, because you mentioned Colleen Corlett there, and right in front of us as we speak is this wonderful, I don't know, I suppose it looks like it's sort of an embroidered spider cushion. It's sizable, and it's just wonderful, isn't it? It's a very large, very cuddly crocheted spider crawling down the walls. And yes, it is not what you would normally expect to see from Colleen, because you'd think beautiful watercolours or ceramics or stained glass or one of the many things that she's fantastic at. But this lovely, cuddly crochet spider is delightful, huge as well. He is massive. You see, I always get my crochet and my embroidery mixed up. He's a wonderful thing. I would happily, he's not for sale, so she's obviously very proud of him, and quite rightly so. So I'd happily put him on my sofa as a sort of a cushion curiosity, which would be bound to cause
conversation with any guests coming into your house. Next door to that is another beautiful little intricate piece, which is sort of playing on it's a mixture of sort of jewellery and wire work, and plays on the intricacy of the spider's web, somewhat mounted on a little piece of wood by, who's this one by? It's Incy Wincy, called by Susan Quilliam. And again, we were just saying as we were looking at that, I remember this sort of thing, putting panel pins into wood and then stretching sort of wires or indeed bits of wool or such like in between. I remember the idea of doing that from things like the Ladybird book when I was a kid and such like.
Well, this is the example of taking the cobweb from the invertebrates and making it an art piece, and it works so well, especially because it's in silver wire, so you get the sheen and the shine like you do on a spider's web in the light. It works a treat, and of course it's sold immediately.
Yes, red dot on that one as well. I can imagine it really went very quickly. Now, we mentioned one, we just walk over here, you were talking about the common spider, and fantastic. One of the first things we spotted when we came into the gallery, just up on the wall here, there's some really wonderful pictures, photographs, and sort of, I don't know, they're lithographs or prints, and how you'd call them, but one here, which has a fantastic title of Does My Bum Look Big in This? Lisa Young with a picture, a close-up of a garden spider. And as you say, just looking at the back of the spider, again, you just realise the intricacy of the patterns on it. And it could pass for either a really sort of like, I don't know, a piece of marble or a stone, or if you're being more romantic, it could almost be like a little sort of picture of the Earth, or a sort of an alien planet from a distance. It's got sort of all those sort of markings. And as you say, it's one of those things, isn't it? Without looking closely at a picture like that, you'd never really appreciate the beauty and the intricacies of markings on what is the sort of spider that people see in their gardens.
It's a common, tiny little spider that it would just pass by you, and you might not notice it, but seeing it there, stopped and in front of you, and a portrait of such a little beastie, it is fabulous. I had to go back home and have a look in my garden to see, oh yes, that is a garden spider. Yep. There it is.
And behind you here, there's something, this is one I can imagine, a wonderful massive piece here in the middle, which I think, I just walked past it, and I tell you the first thought I had was the alien from the Alien films. It suddenly reminded me of that, but it is actually based, as I think to a degree, was the alien in the Alien films by H.R. Geiger, I think it was. And I'm sure he definitely used, it's the insect world as some inspiration for it. And this is based on a chrysalis. It's a massive thing. It's about, I don't know, what am I, 5 foot? So it must be about 4.5, 5 foot high.
Yeah, it's about 4 foot, something like that. But it's one of Gavin Carter's fabulous burnt wood sculptures of a chrysalis. And it is very tactile. And of course, with Gavin's work, you are allowed to touch.
Oh, that's even better, isn't
yes,
it? 'Cause it's,
yes, but to see something that is normally maybe only a couple of inches long in this form of near 5 foot, again, you get to see different shapes and just a different appreciation of it.
Totally. And just behind that, quite the opposite side of things, much more delicate and dainty, and the sort of things I imagine, this is the area of, I suppose, the insect world where a lot of people do admire the beauty on a regular basis. That's butterflies and the moths, and there's some gorgeous ones done here. Beetles, a red admiral, a garden tiger moth, a clouded yellow. Now I'm going to get it wrong again. Are they embroidery, these ones, or how are these actually formed?
Embroidery and beadwork, and there is a specific technique where it's made fluffy, and I can't remember what it is, but they are embroidered brooches by Yvonne Smallwood, and I know each one takes at least a week to make. But
you just look at the detail and you realise.
I don't know how she's not cross-eyed. The tiny, tiny beads and tiny iridescent beads, just like a scarab beetle or like this mint beetle here. They're fabulous things, and because they're brooches, they can be worn or they can be mounted into a little frame, and so they're dual purpose item, but they are beautiful, and they are of specific butterflies and moths and beetles that are found around the island. There are so many different things to see here, so we thought we'd keep it running for a while, because with Christmas prior and everybody's just manic, that sometimes you just don't get to see things that are happening those few weeks before Christmas. So yeah, we're running this until the 28th of January.
Terrific, and I strongly encourage you to come down and see it. It's really different, really eye-catching. I think it's a cracking idea, really. So was this your own idea, or how did the idea, I know you hinted at the beginning there, but it's such an unusual idea to base something around just the beauty of just this side of nature.
I'd seen an old magazine that Pat Kelly had dropped into John the Weaver downstairs, and in this magazine there was a little tiny article about a lady who made an exhibition just from British bumblebees, and she felted them and then invited other artists to create, because there's 300 different species of bumblebees in Britain. So I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to create an exhibition with Manx invertebrates and just go wild. And next year we're going to do a fungi and lichen and moss
beautiful.
and forest floor
Wow.
extravaganza in September, so that it's to try and highlight this wonderful Manx biodiversity that we have, and how that creates and inspires artists to go off and draw, embroider, carve beautiful artwork.
It's a truly brilliant exhibition, all the better for being really unusual and quirky, and lots of artists you might not know. You still have a couple of weeks to check it out. It's there until the 28th of January. Fly down there. See what I did there? We'll be catching up with Julia again, by the way, in a week or so's time to hear more about the gallery itself.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Now, if you have an artistic project which has been brewing away in your mind for some time, waiting to come to fruition, but you haven't got the backing, you can't fund it, whatever, listen up. The first round of Arts Council funding on the Isle of Man for 2023 is underway. You could apply if you're lucky. You could get the backing you need to make your project a reality. To find out more about the scheme, how you go about it, I spoke to Arts Development Officer Martin Kane.
We tend to have about 4 funding rounds in a year, and so the first one is going to be at the start of the first funding meeting is going to be at the start of March, where we'll have the deadline for that meeting is Friday the 10th of February. So it's open to anyone who has any sort of arts or creative project or event that they'd like to put on. We've at the sort of back end of last year, we had the 2 new funding rounds that we have. So normally we've had grant funds, travel grants. So if you wanted to go away to do a project or an event, or you want to bring someone to the island, travel grant will cover their travel and accommodation. We have underwrites, which are there for ticketed events. So it kind of shores you up against loss on your event. And then we've added these 2 new funding schemes, as I say, which is a short film fund, which is a match fund of up to £15,000. So if your film budget is £30,000, then you can apply for us for up to half of that. And then we also set up, kind of off the back of lockdown, really, in that when we came out of lockdown, a lot of people had time to think about what they wanted to do, and so they wanted to set up their own businesses, and so we had a lot of people come to us about setting up their own creative business. So we've now got a fund especially for that, and so that is up to a £5,000 basically business startup fund. So if you sit within any of the creative industries, you can come to us for that.
So how the decision made what's funded and what's not? Is this something the council itself sits on, or how does it actually work, that process?
Yeah, sure. So council made up of 9 members, and we have a arts and culture strategy that's Tynwald approved. You can find that on our website. And basically within the strategy there's 5 ambitions, and so council essentially fund against these ambitions. So in part of the application form you'll be asked which ambitions you meet in the strategy and how you think you meet them. And it's one of those things. If you meet one ambition, you might get a little bit of cash. If you meet all 5 of them, you might get everything that you asked for. So yeah, it's really just selling yourself and selling the project on the application form, and showing how it meets these ambitions in the strategy.
And so it's a very broad spectrum from what you're saying there. So anyone listening, it sounds it can be a company, maybe a theatre company. It can be something, an individual going away. It could be someone maybe looking to, I don't know, publish some poetry, something. It's a very broad spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try and make the application process as simple as possible, which is why the sort of main funds, as I say, are the grant and the underwrite fund. So if you had something like Creative Ireland or Arts Council England, there would be very specific applications for very specific things. But obviously we're not the size of Ireland or England, but we still get quite a lot of variety in the application. So we want to try and make it sort of as simple as possible for as many people as possible to apply.
And do you try and, when you're actually making the awards, as it were, or at least granting the funding, is there because obviously there's so many different types of arts, and the Isle of Man is known for this, everything from, like I said, the visual arts through poetry, lots of performance arts, lots of people studying across. We have no shortage of musicians working at all sorts of levels. Do you try to sort of spread it out between the arts?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that I think council are very conscious of, and spreading it out between the arts and spreading it out across the island as well. We all the council money comes from lottery duty. So if you buy a lottery ticket, then the duty that comes from the tickets for that go to things like us and to like the lottery trust. And you'll see the adverts for the lottery in England. It goes to museums and places like that. So council only have a sort of finite budget that they can work with. So they also have to be make sure that it's sort of being spent as many areas as possible across things. So you won't find, that maybe music or theatre or visual art or something will get like the majority of the money. So they try and spread it out as well as they can.
Are people allowed to, if they've maybe put in a year or two back and had a grant or a fund or some support for one project, can they put in again, or is this something, if lots of new people are coming in, are they going to be prioritised?
No, it's on the strength of the application and the project. So if we do have repeat funders that come in, but it is one of those things that we kind of say almost not to be reliant on Arts Council funding, because as I say, it is only there's only a certain amount in the pot, and if new things do come about and we think actually that's worth sort of looking at exploring that as a project, this project might have been going on for 5 years or 10 years or so, and it's time to give someone new a go. But no, it's it's all off the strength of the applications and what council think is a good project for the island, for the island's public to enjoy or to take part in. So yeah, that's really how the decisions are made.
And do you get a very, very broad range? Because I'm thinking, you often see the Arts Council logo popping up on productions coming up, maybe the Gaiety or smaller theatres, on some books sometimes. You'll see books and you'll see that's been had Arts Council funding. Do you get a real breadth of weird and wonderful and wacky projects coming through? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. As you say, there's the things that you would expect. There's the the shows and the Gaiety, and there's musicians that apply for maybe if they want to go to a recording studio. But I've only been sort of in this role for 5 years, and in that time I've seen flower arrangers. One thing I've seen someone who wanted to go to like a really niche music exhibition event in Germany that we sort of sent them to, and yeah, it never sort of ceases to surprise me when these applications come through and you think, oh, that's really good idea. It's great that someone's sort of looking to do that over here. So one of the things that we've sort of seen, and maybe this is a post-lockdown thing as well, I don't know, but there's a lot more sort of technological projects coming through. So we've had a few podcasts. We spoke to someone this morning who wants to do like a big like live streamed event. So that would be in one place, and they'd be sort of streaming it out to different parts of the island. So yeah, I think that as well will be things that we sort of see come through in the next sort of few years. I think as sort of access to technology becomes greater, it's all very interesting.
So the $1 million question, and if someone's listening to this, I can imagine people thinking, I wouldn't mind putting in some granting for this. How easy is it to do, and how do they actually go about it?
Yeah. All you need to do, if you go to our website, which is iomarts.com, you're able to sign up and create yourself a little account on there, and then you'll have access to our funding portal. Once you're in there, you can pick the right funding scheme that's right for you. So as I say, whether it's a grant or an underwrite or a film fund or whatever it might be. And from there, there's one form. And that's basically it. You can call up the office anytime if you want to just double check. A lot of people come in and meet us because they think that their idea is a bit out there and it might not be ready for funding. But, and sometimes we say, we'll go away and think about it a bit more, like, in detail. Sometimes we just say, just go for it, just put the form in as it is. You can start your form, you can come back to it, you can save it and come back to it. You can, once you've saved it, you can give us a call and we can look through it before you finally submit it. So yeah, the team in the office are always sort of there to help. It's kind of great because it's Arts Council's remit to spend this funding, right? So we want to give the cash away. We want to give this money away, to be able to do it in these projects is there's no sort of hidden. There's no hidden hurdles or anything to try and stop you getting the funding. It's just there for people to enjoy.
So what are you waiting for? Apply now.
Well, the Featherstone Ski Lodge, yeah, it is the place to be. Well, the Featherstone Ski Lodge, yeah, it is the place to be.
Ellie Quayle, a super talented artist, well known on the island, on social media and around the world. And on Friday this week, she's seeing the new year in with her customary laugh and a smile, a comedy variety show at the Working Man's Institute in Laxey. Ellie Quayle and friends, and she's got lots of them. We were going to have a chat, Ellie and I, here in the Spotlight studio ahead of the event, but the best laid plans, as they say, didn't work out at my end, didn't happen. But by the wonder of the web, here she is in all her loveliness to tell us more about it.
I am putting on a comedy show this Friday, the 13th, at the Laxey Working Men's Institute. And it's from inspiration of Tim Minchin, Victoria Wood, Fascinating Aida, and similar artists. I've been interested in writing comedy since I was about 18, so now I'm 24. And I just love the silliness and the fun that you can have with it, because a lot of music tends to take itself quite seriously, and while I really respect this, I'm too much of a silly person to do this. So I really like the fact that I can just let loose, have fun, write songs about really stupid things, and hopefully people have a bit of a laugh with me. I enjoy to write about everyday things, everyday problems and things that go wrong, nothing too serious, and things that have just tickled me, and I think hopefully it'll tickle other people. So the inspirations for my songs come from looking around. I'm a massive people watcher, not in a creepy way. So this concert on Friday is called Ellie Quayle and Friends, and it includes myself headlining, the sea shanty group called Minds a Shanty, which Howard Kane is part of himself. There is Mandy Griffin will be doing some songs, as well as a few other friends of mine who are helping me out, who are insanely talented. I'm very, very excited, and there are still tickets left, not many, probably about 10. It starts at 7:30 at the Laxey Working Men's Institute. And I think this idea for this comedy show has kind of been in the pipeline for a long time. So this time last year, in January 2022, I did my debut comedy show at the Institute. And then following the success of that, I then in March did one in the Peel Centenary Centre, which is a gorgeous venue as well. I, later in the year, I think it was about autumn time, did another one in the Douglas Old Friends, which is lovely, and I've been invited back to do another one in a few months. If you would like tickets, you have to get in quick because there's only about 10 left. My Facebook page is the way that you get in touch with me. So my Facebook page or Instagram is Ellie Quayle Music, all one word and lowercase for the Instagram. My most recent project, which has been brilliant, but a lot of hard work, has been writing for orchestra and choir for the Isle of Man Choral Society. So this is a real change, and having that variety as a composer is what I love.
That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where you want, when you want, how you want. Why not try it whilst making a Welsh rarebit for your tea? See you next week. Cheerio.